Something wicked this way comes for the Russian invaders as Ukraine is turning the tide with a small but fierce piece of kit, the NLAW. This anti-tank missile is a dream for any soldier and a nightmare for any Russian soldier, as it has proved itself powerfully effective at fending off the slow encroachment of Russian tanks. Not only can it penetrate tanks with deadly precision, but it's even able to drive fear into the hearts of the Kremlin. But with the likes of the Javelin being supplied by the US and even Russia's own Hornets, one question hangs in the air. Does the NLAW have what it takes to go from underdog to top dog as the quintessential anti-tank missile? Ukraine, Russia, and the NLAW. Since World War II, short-range infantry anti-tank weapons have become a valuable asset by compelling enemy armored vehicles to stay away. But where the bazooka, Panzerfaust, and PIAT set the trend, it seems the NLAW is now the go-to anti-tank missile for any soldier. The next-generation light anti-tank weapon is a tiny piece of tech, but has created a true David and Goliath story between Ukraine and Russia, especially when you consider how the Russian invasion has amassed a whopping 200,000 soldiers, backed up with thousands upon thousands of armored vehicles, combat aircrafts, and warships. Yet since the moment the invasion began, Russia has failed its prime objective. What was supposed to be a quick and decisive capitulation by Ukraine forces has instead become an arduous engagement, all thanks to this disposable fire-and-forget rocket launcher. Ever since the start of the invasion, Ukraine has received support by way of the US-made FGM-148 Javelins and the FIM-92 Stingers, but it has been the British and Swedish-made NLAW that has instilled terror in the hearts of encroaching Russian foot soldiers. In fact, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has told the UK's Prime Minister Boris Johnson that his army has begun shouting "God Save the Queen" to honor the British defensive tech, which has changed the war for them. These sentiments were even echoed by Lieutenant Colonel Ihor Bazogluk. "Thank you to Great Britain for giving us the NLAWs. It means we can fight the Russians, and it doesn't matter how many of them there are now that we have a way of stopping their armor. The Russians cannot scare us with numbers anymore." The Javelin and Stingers are already legends of the anti-tank missiles, so how is it that this relatively unknown piece of equipment has become the favorite? It's so popular, in fact, that to date, the United Kingdom has provided over 3,615 of the short-range next-generation light anti-tank weapons to Ukraine, with more to come. The British Army even dispatched 30 paratroopers to train Ukrainian forces on how to use the sophisticated yet simple piece of equipment. And when you see the tech, it makes perfect sense why Ukrainian soldiers are singing the British national anthem every time they take down a Russian tank. The NLAW is easy to use and easy to carry, which makes it perfect for soldiers in a crisis. The single-shot, shoulder-mounted rocket uses a fire-and-forget approach disposable missile system that can even be fired from and into buildings. No wonder it has stalled the advance of Russia's armored column when it has flexibility like that. Having been developed by Saab Bofors Dynamics and built in Belfast by Thales Air Defence, the soft launch system means the missile is ejected non-explosively, providing more adaptability in where it can be used by infantry. For a deadly missile, it is safe to use. In fact, the weapon began development way back in 2002 to replace Cold War-era weapons, so it's had a lot of testing and revisions since then to guarantee it is cutting edge. It has been such a successfully designed weapon that it has already been exported to Finland, Luxembourg, Indonesia, Malaysia, and even Saudi Arabia, which used the weapon during combat in Yemen. And it's no wonder it's seeing more interest than the likes of the Javelin or Stinger. An operator just needs to aim 1 meter above the tank, and the downward-shaped charge will do the rest. It has even been demonstrated to be effective against personnel and infrastructure, as well as the intended targets of tanks and armored vehicles. But this nifty kit won't win the war alone. Modern Russian military tactics adhere to a non-contact warfare doctrine, which means that enemy forces are destroyed from a distance with artillery and drones. Given Ukraine's geography is flat, this gives few places for Ukrainian forces to defend for cover, or even for rocky terrain to obstruct tanks. But against all odds and thanks to the grit of the Ukrainian army, the NLAW has created a nice stalemate and kept the distance between the dueling armies. It still remains a defensive measure, so Ukraine will need to employ other tactics to cut off invaders, but it's good to know that Russian tanks are hesitant to wander too far into enemy territory. Under the hood. The NLAW is an impressive piece of equipment, which no doubt is why it is so effective. It has more gizmos packed into its tiny frame than the latest iPhone. As a disposable weapon, it is capable of firing a single 150mm high explosive anti-tank missile between 20 and 600 feet, and 400 for moving targets. Yet it weighs a feather-light 27.5 pounds. That's light enough for a single soldier to carry on top of their gun and other equipment. All this immediately makes transporting it over long distances easy. So with that firepower to back it up, we're talking about a serious force to be reckoned with. And given that there are reports of how the latest models can travel up to 800 meters, the NLAW has untapped potential waiting to be discovered. The predicted line of sight guidance system alone is what separates it from most light anti-tank weapons. When operating, the target needs only be detected for up to 5 seconds, which is all the missile needs to be able to follow tanks that are moving to cover. Add to that a basic optical sight with 2.5 times magnification, and you have a quick, simple, effective target detection system. There's even a red sight for use at night, making it one of the most adaptive tracking systems for any anti-tank missile. Then the cold launch system ejects the missile with pressurized gas before igniting the rocket motor to give a powerful acceleration of up to 440 miles per hour. This protects the operator from backblast and even grants valuable time for the operator to move one before the target can return fire. Once in the air, the missile guides itself to the target. An inertial navigation system uses an algorithm based on a prior trajectory to predict where the target will be. There's even a tap attack mode where the missile will detonate 1 meter above the weakest point of the tank's armor, the turret. The ability to adapt not just how you fire and where you fire, but even how you attack, speaks volumes about the amazing engineering behind this state-of-the-art equipment. Even better, the NLAW's guidance system isn't easily tricked by decoys and other soft kill countermeasures. However, a target vehicle might theoretically stop or change course to avoid being hit, but you'd need quick reflexes to escape that 5-second tracking window. But being one shot makes this disposable rocket costly, as each one fetches a $40,000 price tag. But given the price of an average Russian tank can be in the millions, it is clear that NLAW is more cost-effective. The details of the NLAW's construction lend themselves to a 20-year lifespan, which is mind-blowing when you consider how much potential there is to discover with further models. Take the firing mechanism, a novelty in its own right. Rather than an embedded lever or trigger on its launch tube, the right-hand side uses an ergonomic grip, but behind the muzzle brake. This might break with the tradition of anti-tank missile launcher design, but the comfort and ease of its controls is worth it. All this attention to detail demonstrates that the NLAW is part of a new age of anti-tank technology. A cut above the rest. Compared to other weapons in its class, the NLAW has as many similarities as it does differences. The ability to target the top of the tank's turret is also a mainstay of the American Javelin, though they're significantly more expensive, hence why the US delivery has been far more limited. 77 launchers, 540 missiles by one count. That said, their range of 2.5 miles is something for the NLAW to envy. But with the Javelin's price tag at $200,000 a pop, the NLAW definitely gives more bang for its buck. That said, the cheaper price does mean some shortcomings. Even though the NLAW does possess greater range and long-distance accuracy than RPG or LAW-type weapons, it still falls well below the long-range power of stronger anti-tank guided missiles, ATGMs, like the TOW, Javelin, or Cornet. They can defeat main battle tanks from miles away, and even take on aircraft, whereas the NLAW, for all of its amazing design, has a single purpose. Plus, the NLAW may have a reputation, but it doesn't have a legacy. The Stinger was made famous by Afghanistan against Soviet forces, so that fearsome reputation can be a morale booster for Ukrainians fighting back against Russian invaders. The Stinger certainly remains a deadly weapon, with an effective range of 15,000 feet, and an infrared seeker warhead makes it adept at aircraft. But the US has shipped few since January, partly because they were figuring out how to remove classified material. So instead, the USA relied on other countries to ship their Stingers for them. Thankfully, the NLAW has gone down a storm amongst Ukrainian fighters, so this anti-tank weapon could eclipse the Stinger as the go-to anti-Russian weapon. You would not be remiss for thinking the NLAW could win the war. It's already made a huge splash, the consequences of which have been felt by Russian forces. No doubt it has a place in the history books, but given that this is its first major conflict, time will tell whether its time in the spotlight will be short-lived or whether the NLAW has what it takes to be a formidable obstacle throughout the entire conflict. But what do you think? Can it go all the way, or is it just a matter of time until Russia figures out how to overcome this small but mighty equipment? Be sure to let us know in the comments. Subscribe to get our next video. Leave a thumbs up if you support new military tech, and consider sharing this with someone who's interested in the current conflict. Thank you for watching.